Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to the channel. It's time for me to get back to my search for my favourite decade of fantasy. This time I'm going to take a look at the 2020s so far. So I've really enjoyed looking through the highlights of my fantasy reading decade by decade as I look to find what is my favourite decade of fantasy. I still don't know what the answer to that question is going to be, but we are very close to finding out. Today I'm going to take a look at the 2020s. Obviously we're only halfway through the decade, but I didn't want to skip this one even though it's not a full decade yet. I've read so many great books that were published in the 2020s that I just had to include this as one of the options in my search. So I'm going to do the same as usual. I'm going to go through about a dozen highlights from the 2020s so far, and this is the decade where I really started to get some great self-published fantasy coming in as well, so you will see a number of those in my highlights reel in this video. At the end of this video, as usual, I'll pick out 5 favourites from my highlights reel. These will all be the first book in a series, or they'll be standalones, but they will all have been published in the 2020s. These will go up against my favourites from the 1980s, the 1990s, the 2000s and the 2010s as I look in the next video in this series, the final video, to find out what is my favourite. So without wasting any further time, let's get into my highlights reel for the 2020s so far in publication order. I'm going to start out with one of my favourite self-published fantasies. This one is Voice of War, the first book in Threadlight by Zach Argyle, released in 2020. This was one of the SPFBO 7 finalists. That was such a fantastic competition for me. Some of the SPFBO 7 finalists I thought were really fantastic. I think I might have included one of those previously. I think I've got 3 of them just in this highlights reel today. But Threadlight is now a finished series. I absolutely adored this one. I loved the magic in it. I loved the characters in it. I loved the imagery of the world as well as we progress through the 3 books in the series. It was quite a bittersweet ending for me because of some of the things that happened, but I just thought that the whole series pulled together really well, and I definitely recommend checking out Threadlight. Next up, we've got another self-pub. This one was also released in 2020, and it's Along the Razor's Edge by Rob J. Hayes. This is the first book in the War Eternal. Some of the books in this series, a 5-book series, I didn't think were quite as good. This is actually rare for me, in which the first book in the series is my favourite in the series, but I absolutely adored this one. It was like a breath of, not a breath of fresh air, because that sounds kind of weird if you know this book. It's almost like a breath of foul air, but that's a really good and kind of refreshing thing. The main character in here, Esker, is so foul-mouthed. I just loved the narration of the audiobook as well. It really fit. It really suited the character to a T. The whole series has got some great magic in it, some great massive battles that are really difficult to picture because they are so great in scope. But yeah, it's just a fantastic overall series. And then rounding out the highlights from 2020, I've got another one of the SPFBO 7 finalists. This is Hall of Bones by Tim Hardy, book 1 of Brotherhood of the Eagle. I haven't finished reading this series yet, but book 2 I actually thought was even better than book 1, even as much as I enjoyed this first book. It's a kind of Norse inspired, almost feels like in many ways historical fiction or historical fantasy, but it's been such a great series for me so far, and I'm really looking forward to getting back into book 3 and book 4 to finish off this series, which hopefully I'm going to be doing in 2026. Moving on then to 2021, and we've got actually my first trad published book of this highlights reel. This is A Black Coast by Mike Brooks, book 1 of the God King Chronicles. I absolutely loved the 3 books in this trilogy. It's another series where I listened to the audiobook and the narration just gave it that extra level because it was such a fantastic fitting narration. I really love the invention of this world. We do have dragons in here, but they are different dragons because I think all of them, rather than even just most of them, I think all of the dragons in here are flightless. They are land-based dragons and they're used as beasts of war, much in the same way as horses are. It's just they're a little bit bigger and a little bit more dangerous than horses as they're riding towards you with an opposing force. I really, really love the politics in here. You've got two kind of rival nations who are coming together and trying to exist together, and I really enjoyed looking at the different cultures and the way that they try to integrate, because they are so different, and it's difficult to understand each other because you've got not only the cultural differences but the language barrier as well. But I thought it was all really, really well done in this series, and it's another one that I absolutely recommend. 2021 was a good year for my highlights reel. I've got another few of them coming up, starting with Illborn by Daniel T. Jackson. This is a book series that is, I think, 4 or 5 books long, or will be when it's finished. It's had 3 produced so far, and I've really enjoyed them for the most part. There are some great characters in here, some great scenarios, and the books are really big as well, so the series as a whole is great in scope. This is a real kind of religious fantasy in terms of the holy war that you've got as a main centerpiece of the overall story. We focus on 4 different characters who are part of a kind of prophecy, and they're all in different parts of the world, and they're coming together at various different points. And I just like the way that that's done and the way that they interact when they do meet. There are a few scenes in here which are, to many people, quite questionable, so there's been a bit of controversy with some of it and with, I guess, one particular character, but I didn't actually mind that. I thought that I could see where it fit in with the scope of the story, and that was fine for me. But this is another one that I've really enjoyed. The second book I thought was absolutely fantastic, even if the third one did then drop down a bit for me. That does sometimes happen, but I still really enjoy the series as a whole. Then, still staying in 2021, another book that I read around about the same time as Illborn actually was Of Blood and Fire, book 1 of The Bound and the Broken by Ryan Cahill. This series has since been picked up as the first series to be published traditionally by the Broken Binding Publishing as their new kind of publishing arm of the company. But the series so far has been absolutely massive in scope. Each book just gets bigger. To be honest, for me, a little bit too big. I haven't read the 4th one yet because it is a bit daunting. I'm trying to find out where I'm going to fit it into my kind of reading calendar. The 3rd book was already an absolute massive tome at something like 1,400 pages. And I just felt that it went on a little bit too much. It could have been, for my tastes, shortened a little bit. But the first book was great, and the second book is one of those that was absolutely fantastic, that built on what you got in book 1 and made it all so much better. So this is one that is just going from strength to strength, and I'm looking forward to at some point jumping back in, reading book 4, and then when it's available, book 5 to finish off the series. And then in the same year, we've got the first book in a new series by one of my favourite authors, by John Gwynne. We've got The Shadow of the Gods, book 1 of Bloodsworn. This was a bit of a departure from The Faithful and the Fallen. We're moving to a bit more kind of mythology and folklore in this one. Even though it's a fantasy land, we've got a lot of references from Norse mythology in here. So if you're familiar with kind of historical period and that mythology, you'll be right at home with this series. It was sometimes because of the language that's associated with that time and that place in the world, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to get into various parts of this, but that doesn't take away, it doesn't detract from the book and the series as a whole. I loved the story that we got in here. It just built and went from strength to strength as the 3 books in the series came out, and they became an absolute favourite of mine. It doesn't get up to the levels of The Faithful and Fallen for me, but at this point in time I just don't know if anything will get to that level for me. Moving back into self-pub to round out books that were published in 2021 in this highlights reel, I've got The Iron Crown, which is book 1 of Dragon Spirits by L.L. McRae. This is another series that I absolutely loved. It was another one that was, I see as kind of a breath of fresh air, because it just took a lot of tropes that we get in fantasy, and then the author put her own slant on them and made these tropes her own, basically, within this series. I really, really liked the dragon spirits of the title in here. They're not normal dragons. They are all attuned to specific forests or bodies of water or something else to do with the geography, basically, of this world. And they're almost like gods, basically. People worship them, people revere them, and that gives them the strength they need to carry on living. And I really like how you get the introduction to the dragons in here, and you get more and more of them introduced as the series goes on, and you have some absolutely epic battles towards the end of the series where you've got two absolutely huge dragons duking it out in the air, and you've got your characters, your humans, down below on the ground kind of watching this and trying to escape and get to safety against the backdrop of these battles. I just thought it was all absolutely amazing. The characters themselves I really enjoyed. I really liked the story as we progress through the series, and it's another completed series as well, so it's definitely one that if you haven't checked out already, you should go out and take a look at it. In 2022, I've got a book that I've only actually read the first book. I haven't got to book 2 in the series yet, but this is Petition by Delilah 1, book 1 of Crystal Resonance Legacy, and again, it's one where I just really had a great time. I was quite surprised. I didn't really know what to expect going into this one, but the story just, it didn't quite blow me away, but do you know what? It got really close because I really enjoyed it. The magic in here was great. I love the description of it as we're looking at creating weaponry from essentially from the air through the crystal resonance of the kind of the magic system. It does have a bit of a an educational setting, not quite a school setting. It's not quite that trope, but it's one that I don't generally enjoy, and the way it was done in this book, I really did enjoy. I thought it was done very well. There's a bit of a murder mystery in there as well, which I really wasn't expecting, but was done very well in the story. I'm looking forward to getting into book 2 and continuing this story, but even just having read one book, this is an absolute highlight for me. And then moving on to 2023, the last 3 books in my highlights list are all from this year. I start off with The Malevolent Seven by Sebastian de Castell. This guy is becoming one of my favourite authors. He's kind of creeping up on me because I've really enjoyed everything that I've read of him, but I never really consider him when I look at who are my favourite authors. I really should change that outlook. I had a great time with this book. It is absolutely bonkers. There is so much going on, and it is all just, yeah, absolutely crazy, especially when you get into some of the elements of book 2 in the series, The Malevolent Eight. I really enjoyed the humour in here. Sometimes I think humour can be really badly done in fantasy, and it always seems that the author is trying too hard to be funny and it's just working against them basically. Here it just seems effortless. It works really well, and it's kind of like a grown-up, really naughty Terry Pratchett kind of style. Not quite the satire, but just the actual humour itself really reminded me of Pratchett and his Discworld. I loved this book. I love the second book in the series as well, and I'm definitely going to be checking out some more works from Sebastian de Castell in next year's reading plan, because I want to see if that continues and see if I enjoy everything pretty much that he's written. Then moving on, I've got another self-pub fantasy that I absolutely adore. This one is Sea of Souls by N.C. Scrimger, book 1 of the Sea of Souls saga. It's another completed trilogy, so again, if you're looking to pick up a series when it's complete, you can go out there and get this one. I think it's the 12th of November that book 3 comes out, so okay, it's not quite complete at the time of filming, but it will be very soon. I loved all 3 books in this series. Again, it's one that is pretty unique for me. I've not seen many fantasy books that tackle a lot of the stuff that you've got in here. Certainly none that I can think of that tackle all of it in this way. We've got a dark fantasy. It's inspired by Scottish folklore. You've got Selkies, you've got pirates, you've got some romance in there, and it all just works really well. So many times you get some of those aspects all together, but as I say, I just can't think of anything offhand that involves all of them, includes all of them, and does it really well. And let me tell you, this book, this series, definitely does it all very well. I loved this one. It is definitely going to be one of my top books, my top series, when I do my next iteration of my top 10 best fantasy series. I really do need to start thinking about expanding that to maybe a top 20, because there are so many great series that I've rounded out over the last few years, and yeah, it's going to be really difficult when I come to have that conversation with myself and try to rank them and decide what makes it and what has to be left out of the top 10. But yeah, Sea of Souls Saga, I think is going to be placing pretty high in that list, and I can say the same for a couple of other series that are in this video today. And then finally for 2023, rounding out this highlights reel, and I guess rounding out this series of videos in that respect, I've got Talon Sister by Jen Williams, book 1 of the Talon duology. Again, this one was something that just gave me something a little bit different, and I really enjoyed it. This one's got kind of an English folklore, I guess, aspect to it. You've got the Green Man, and you've got unicorns and forest dragons, and you've got all of these titans of old that are kind of from mythology and legend, and you've got kind of an Arthurian feel to it, I would say, as well. The whole story is very interesting to me. You've got these, the Titan bones are grafted into people to create these great warriors who can use their Titan power to coalesce wings and weaponry and armor and become almost invincible, basically. And I really like the way that that was all handled throughout the story, as one of our main characters is one of these titans. The whole story itself I just thought was really well put together. There were some great scenes in there, some overall great scope when you get to some of the battles in there as well, and it was a fantastic couple of books. I really like as well how it's quite rare to have a duology with this kind of scope, this epic feel to it, but the Talon duology I think did a really good job at kind of filling that little bit of a void there. So then, as usual for these videos, I need to go through this highlights reel and pull out 5 favourites that I'm going to put forward to do battle against the 5 favourites from the other decade. So as usual, I'm going to go through these in chronological order by the date they were published. So we're going to start off with Voice of War by Zach Argyle, because I absolutely loved this series as a whole, and it was a great first book to kick it off. Speaking of, we've got The Black Coast by Mike Brooks next. This one was just absolutely a whirlwind of epic fantasy, and I loved it. We've then got The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, so some real big guns in terms of the series that I'm bringing out here. And then we've got 2 self-pubs to finish off with as well. I'm going with The Iron Crown by L.L. McRae, one of my favourite series of fantasy, and another of those is the Sea of Souls Saga. Book 1 is the Sea of Souls itself by N.C. Scrimger. So some real great books in this decade so far, and we're only halfway through, so I don't know what's going to come over the next 5 years, but I'm really looking forward to it. So in the next video, I'm going to put all of these favourites together and try to pull out my favourite decade of fantasy from them. Stay tuned to see what comes out on top. Let me know down below what you thought of my highlights reel for this decade though, or this decade so far, and how you think it's going to do in that next video. That's everything for today. Hope to see you in the next video sometime soon. Till then, as always, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye for now.